In pop music, only a small handful of artists manage to avoid the inevitable flop era that always seems to come. In this video, we'll look at 8 artists that have never flopped. Bruno Mars. Bruno Mars is one of the few artists whose discography is like a highlight reel with no dull moments. From the moment he stepped into the spotlight as a solo artist in 2010, he established a track record of nothing but successful albums. Bruno's debut album, Doo-Wops and Hooligans, was an immediate success. Just the Way You Are and Grenade became global #1 hits, establishing him as a pop star after he gained some attention with his features. The album sold very well, especially in an era where digital downloads had begun replacing album sales. Didn't debut with huge numbers, but it has gone on to be certified 9 times platinum in the US. Debut albums are often hit or miss, but not this one. It was a hit from top to bottom. His second album, Unorthodox Jukebox, was the moment he proved he wasn't just a one-era wonder. Locked Out of Heaven, When I Was Your Man, and Treasure turned this era into a memorable one. The album topped the charts worldwide and cemented his position as one of the strongest male pop performers of the early 2010s. There was no sophomore slump, as the album has now been certified 6 times platinum. Bruno didn't just stay successful, he leveled up. Then in 2016, the 24 Karat Magic era transformed him from a pop star to a legend. Released in 2016, the album had a tight track list and produced massive singles like 24 Karat Magic, That's What I Like, and Finesse, all of which peaked in the top 10. Every song felt like an event. The album swept the Grammys and made Bruno the face of retro funk revival. Even when he takes long breaks, his return is always explosive. The 2021 Silk Sonic collaboration with Anderson .Paak extended his streak with a global smash, Leave the Door Open. Bruno has yet to release an album that underperformed, which makes him one of the most reliable pop stars of his era. Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift's career is perhaps one of the strongest examples of an artist who has never experienced a commercial flop. Her sustained dominance across nearly 20 years makes her one of the most consistently successful artists in pop history. She started her journey with her self-titled debut in 2006, which became a country phenomenon, spawning hits like Tim McGraw and Teardrops on My Guitar. It spent close to 300 weeks on the Billboard 200, an astonishing run for her debut album. Unlike many country crossovers, her success didn't fade, it only grew. Then Fearless catapulted Taylor into superstardom across country and pop audiences in 2008. It became one of the biggest albums of the 2000s, debuting at #1 with first week sales of 592,000 copies. It also won multiple Grammys, including Album of the Year. Love Story and You Belong With Me defined an entire era, which meant that there was no sophomore slump, only elevation. She then went to another level with her entirely self-written Speak Now and debuted with over 1 million pure album sales in the first week. An amazing achievement. Every single charted, and hits like Back to December and Mean showcased her growth. Then Red in 2012 introduced Taylor's pop crossover and produced several massive hits. I Knew You Were Trouble and We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together helped cement her ability to dominate mainstream radio with a whole different sound. The album sold another million in its first week, continuing her momentum. It became one of her most critically acclaimed albums, and it paved the way for her full pop transformation. Then in 2014, 1989 dropped and became one of the most successful pop albums of the 21st century. Shake It Off, Blank Space, and Style all became generational smash hits, selling another 1 million copies in a week during the streaming transition, something only Taylor could pull off. It was also on Spotify for a long time, but that didn't stop it from becoming the pop bible. Despite its darker tone and media controversies, the follow-up Reputation debuted at #1 in 2017, moving around 1.2 million units in its first week. Look What You Made Me Do was a huge hit, and even in her most divisive era, she did not flop, she dominated. The Lover marked a lighter sonic shift and became one of the best-selling albums of 2019. You Need to Calm Down and Me performed strongly, and Cruel Summer went on to become her biggest song ever. The album solidified Taylor's longevity in a shifting pop climate. In 2020, she changed it up and released 2 surprise albums that shifted her aesthetic entirely. Folklore won Album of the Year and became a streaming giant. Evermore debuted at #1 as well. Both were proof that Taylor can change genres without risking her career. Her re-recordings also became successful, even delivering #1 hits. Then Midnights in 2022 became a late career peak as it shattered streaming records, producing the historic top 10 sweep on the Hot 100. Anti-Hero became one of the biggest songs of her career. Nearly 17 years in, she was still breaking new ground. Then the Tortured Poets Department came in 2024 and moved huge units, selling 1.6 million copies in its first week. Another proof that Taylor simply does not experience commercial decline. Her latest album, The Life of a Showgirl, made history by selling 3.5 million units in its first week, surpassing Adele's 25 for the biggest week ever, and showing Taylor has reached a new level in this decade. Olivia Rodrigo. Olivia Rodrigo's debut album, Sour, is one of the most explosive debuts ever, commercially and critically. Her debut single, Driver's License, debuted on #1 and became a global phenomenon, dominating streaming platforms and radio. Follow-ups like Deja Vu and Good For You continued the momentum, becoming one of the biggest songs of the year. Sour debuted on #1 and held multiple weeks at the top, and remained in the Billboard 200 Top 10 for months. It is now one of the most streamed albums of all time, with 16 billion total Spotify streams. No track from the album underperformed, no single missed, and for her first album, it set a new standard: 0 filler and 0 flops. The album cemented Olivia as a voice of her generation. It was really a great start, but the real test was if she could avoid the sophomore slump, but she cleared that hurdle effortlessly. Guts debuted on #1 and produced another global #1 with Vampire, and delivered multiple viral hits like Bad Idea, Right, and Get Him Back. The album was critically acclaimed and showed her artistic growth. Instead of collapsing under the pressure, Olivia expanded her sound and audience. Guts exceeded expectations. It was a worthy follow-up. Olivia has had an impeccable career up to now. With only 2 albums in, she already ranks among the most consistent modern pop stars. No commercial missteps yet, only wins. SZA. SZA was an underground artist for a long time, dropping mixtape after mixtape leading up to her debut album. Her first studio album, Control, came out in 2017 with not a lot of hype, but its impact went on to be impressive as it became a slow burn success. The album grew slowly as singles like The Weeknd, Broken Clocks, and Love Galore became long-term streaming successes. Control spent years on the Billboard 200, becoming one of the longest charting R&B albums in modern history. SZA's emotional vulnerability and unique melodic style made her the new voice of alternative R&B. It's a rare example of an album whose cultural influence increased without heavy promotion, just word of mouth. Today, Control is considered a modern R&B classic. After a 5-year hiatus, SZA followed it up with SOS and achieved something even more impressive. SOS debuted on #1 and spent 13 weeks at the top of the Billboard 200, a record-setting run for an R&B album in the streaming era. The project produced an abundance of hits, including Kill Bill, which became her first #1 hit, and other smashes like Snooze and Nobody Gets Me. The album had no weak spots, with a very consistent track list. SOS made SZA an undeniable star. She went on to headline a stadium tour and perform at the Super Bowl. It proves she has become a mainstream powerhouse, capable of dominating. She expanded on the album with the deluxe Lana and extended its stay on the charts. The era has had remarkable longevity. Years later, SOS continues charting high, as it has now spent close to 3 years on the charts. By every metric, SZA's mainstream career has been perfect, with 0 misfires. Ariana Grande. Ariana Grande was an anomaly. Starting on a show on Nickelodeon, few expected the level she would reach. Yours Truly was her first album, and it debuted on #1 on the Billboard 200, instantly proving she had the talent to become a superstar. The lead single, The Way, became a massive hit, placing her in the R&B pop lane. The album performed well for her debut, being certified platinum by the RIAA. Her sophomore album was even bigger. My Everything didn't just avoid the slump, it catapulted Ariana to global pop superstardom. Problem, Break Free, and One Last Time all became huge hits, and the album cemented her ability to generate multiple hits in one era. The album sold well too, being certified 4 times platinum in the US. It was her first true dominance over mainstream pop radio. By album 3, most young pop stars either slow down or fade. Ariana didn't. Dangerous Woman gave her more signature hits. Into You, Side to Side, and the title track all became smashes, which solidified her as one of the few pop artists that could deliver critically and commercially successful albums. His consistent chart performance showed her audience wasn't going nowhere. Following personal challenges, Sweetener came out in 2018 and became one of her most celebrated bodies of work. It debuted on number 1 and earned Ariana her first Grammy for Best Pop Vocal Album. Songs like God Is a Woman and No Tears Left to Cry became memorable hits. Even with a sonic shift, she didn't experience any drop in sales, as the album was certified 2 times platinum. Released just 6 months later, her next album shattered streaming records. The title track became a number 1 smash. 7 Rings dominated for weeks, and Break Up With Your Girlfriend I'm Bored completed a historic top 3 sweep on the Hot 100. It is rare to be successful with back-to-back albums that close to each other, but Ariana rode the momentum and reached her peak, even with a more subdued R&B leaning sound. 2020's Positions debuted at number 1, and its title track became another chart-topping single. While less explosive than her previous era, it still had no commercial downturn, also being certified 2 times platinum. Her latest album, Eternal Sunshine, came out in 2024 and continued her streak. It debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200 with 227,000 units sold. It also delivered 2 number 1 hits, Yes and We Can't Be Friends, Wait For Your Love. To date, Ariana Grande is one of the few pop stars. Every album has been a success, with top 10 hits on all of them. Kendrick Lamar. Kendrick Lamar is often described as the most consistent rapper of his generation, and his discography is one of the best of all time. Each album is a masterpiece, though not a mainstream breakthrough. His first album, Section 80, came out in 2011 and was a very strong commercial independent release. It wasn't intended to dominate the charts, but it became a cult classic. The album immediately positioned Kendrick as a serious storyteller.
Good Kid, Mad City.
It was Kendrick's major label debut and remains one of the best rap albums of all time. It produced a lot of hit singles and remained on the Billboard 200 for more than 10 years. It is a timeless classic and a true concept album, as it has stood the test of time. Normally, highly political and experimental albums risk becoming commercial failures, but Kendrick broke that mold with the follow-up to Pimp a Butterfly, which debuted at number 1. It became a cultural phenomenon, earning multiple Grammy wins. It was a masterpiece that took risks and was able to grow commercially. It is one of the most critically acclaimed albums of all time. Then, in 2017, he came back with Damn, the perfect combination of art and commercial appeal. It debuted at number 1, selling 600,000 units in its first week, spawning massive hits like Humble and Love, and won the Pulitzer Prize, making Kendrick the first hip-hop artist to do so. It was yet another flawless era. After years away from the spotlight, he came back in 2022. Despite being his most challenging project, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers still debuted on number 1, producing streaming hits and even winning a Grammy for Best Rap Album. Then, he came back in 2024 with GNX, following his generational victory against Drake. The album became a success, selling 319,000 units in its first week, even spawning the number 1 hit Luther. Kendrick Lamar's greatest achievement is consistency without predictability. Each album is unique and high quality. NSYNC. While NSYNC's run was short, it was incredible. Every album was a smash, every tour was massive, and their popularity never dipped before they broke up. Their 1998 self-titled debut, NSYNC, became a breakout phenomenon and dominated the late 90s. It's Like Tearing Up My Heart and I Want You Back made them one of the most promising new boy bands, and it gained momentum as the group became a household name. Their second album, No Strings Attached, came in 2000 and is what elevated them to pop culture history. It sold 2.4 million copies in its first week, a record that stood for 15 years and remains one of the most iconic commercial achievements in US music history. The album was impactful, producing hits like Bye Bye Bye, It's Gonna Be Me, and This I Promise You, all massive singles that dominated MTV and the charts at the time. It made them arguably the most successful boy band of all time. Their third and final studio album, Celebrity, dropped in 2001 and continued their streak without losing momentum. Although slightly less explosive than No Strings Attached, it still debuted with enormous sales, produced major hits like Pop, Gone, and had more of a mature sound. After that, the group disbanded, with Justin Timberlake going solo and growing to become a pop icon. NSYNC never reached a point where their popularity dipped. Instead, they walked away at their peak, leaving behind a catalog with 0 commercial failures. They have reunited a couple of times over the years, but they haven't released a new album since 2001, but their discography is impeccable. Adele. Adele is the industry's most unstoppable force. She takes a lot of years to craft her albums, but every era becomes a commercial phenomenon. Her debut album 19 introduced her as a soulful British vocalist, but it didn't explode immediately worldwide. It was a blockbuster in the UK, and it later grew globally, thanks to Chasing Pavements becoming a hit. The album sold far beyond expectations for her debut, and even won her a Grammy for Best New Artist. Then she came back with 21 in 2011, which became one of the biggest albums of the 21st century. Rolling in the Deep, Someone Like You, and Set Fire to the Rain became universal hits, all hitting #1 on the Hot 100. 21 dominated the charts for years, becoming the best-selling album of the 2010s, with over 30 million copies sold worldwide. It also went on to sweep the Grammys. Adele returned after 4 years with another monster of an album, 25. Hello was a generational moment, shattering YouTube records and becoming one of the last true blockbuster singles before streaming fully reshaped the industry. The album continued her pattern of selling millions worldwide, moving around 3.3 million copies in its first week in the US, breaking the all-time record at the time. It proved 21 wasn't a fluke, and Adele was a reliable bestseller. Her fourth album, 30, arrived after a 6-year hiatus, and once again, the world stopped for it. While it didn't have the historic numbers of the last two, 30 topped charts globally and delivered another massive hit with Easy On Me. The album sold strongly in an era where almost nobody sells albums. It has moved close to 10 million units worldwide, even though the music landscape has completely changed. Adele has never had a commercial underperformance. Every album has debuted huge, every lead single became a global event, and every era has Grammys. Which artists that have never flopped did I miss? Tell me in the comments below.